He always wanted to sense progression. I sympathise with that too, musically. Bill's main objective was this musical knowledge.
Steve Howe, a name never shouted, never scandalous, and rarely seen on the covers of gossip magazines. He doesn't scream on stage, doesn't smash his instruments, and has never been kicked out of a studio for alcohol or drugs. And yet, for over half a century, he has remained one of the most vital figures in the world of progressive rock, a genre known for its complexity, audacity, and demand for absolute creativity. As the guitar soul of Yes, the pioneering British prog rock band, Steve Howe doesn't just play, he paints with sound. His solos in Starship Trooper, Roundabout, and Close to the Edge flow like streams of thought winding through time, blending classical and modern, rustic folk and free-form jazz, virtuoso technique and raw emotion. This isn't music made for dancing, it's made for immersion and contemplation. Armed with his signature Gibson ES-175, Howe has made the guitar world admit beauty doesn't lie in speed, but in the deliberate choice of every single note. He doesn't chase trends. He is an era unto himself. In a world where progressive rock legends like Chris Squire, John Wetton, and Rick Wright have all taken their final bow, Steve Howe remains steadfast, quiet, and resilient, like a guitar string that's never snapped. He is not only the keeper of Yes's music, but also a living testament to a philosophy. When art becomes religion, the artist needs no temple, only an instrument, and his journey, from a self-taught London boy to a global icon of creative expression, is not just a story about music. It's a story of loyalty, of powerful silence, and of a man who made the guitar speak. Early life. Steve Howe was born on April 8, 1947, in Holloway, a working-class district in North London, where dreams were scarce, drowned out by the sound of trams and the haze of industrial smoke. His family wasn't the artistic type. His father worked in construction, his mother was a homemaker. They had no musical background and didn't quite grasp the growing intensity of their youngest son's passion. But perhaps the greatest gift they gave Steve was this: they didn't stand in his way. From an early age, Steve was different. He didn't like football, didn't fit in at school, rarely spoke, and had almost no close friends. While other kids roamed the streets or stared at the television, Steve spent hours digging through dusty vinyl bins at the local record shop. He never studied formal music theory, but he memorized entire passages by Les Paul, Chet Atkins, and Django Reinhardt. Guitar masters he considered his silent mentors. At age 12, Steve received his first guitar, a cheap acoustic, from his parents. There were no teachers, no YouTube, no one to guide him. Young Howe listened, mimicked, made mistakes, corrected them, and played into the night, like he was learning a secret language only he could hear. He once recalled, "I didn't learn music like the alphabet. I learned it like speech, by feel." As a teenager, he took part-time jobs at a bookstore and an electronics shop to save up for a Gibson ES-175, the guitar that would become his right arm on every stage and in every studio. At 14 or 15, while his peers dreamed of becoming engineers or doctors, Steve had only one dream: to turn the guitar into his own voice. That difference didn't make his childhood tragic, but it certainly wasn't easy. Steve Howe's early years weren't lit by spotlights, but shaped by a quiet journey to find a language of his own in a world that wasn't listening. And that very silence would later become the subtle, haunting thread in a kind of music that needed no words, yet spoke to everyone. Early career. By the mid-1960s, Steve Howe had already become a familiar name among young musicians in London. But not because he was famous. It was because he played the guitar like no one else. While the prevailing trend leaned heavily toward blues rock or Mersey beat, Howe was blending everything: flamenco, jazz, classical, and traditional English folk. He could shift from a wild tremolo run to a Bach-style arpeggio within a few bars. not to show off, but simply because the sound called for it, as he would say. In 1964, at the age of 17, he joined the Syndicates, a rhythm and blues band produced by the eccentric studio genius Joe Meek, known for crafting some of the decade's strangest hits. The Syndicates never made it big, but it marked Steve's first professional recording experience, and it was here he realized mainstream music wasn't where he belonged. He moved on to the In Crowd, later renamed Tomorrow, a psychedelic rock band hailed by the British press as full of promise. Tomorrow had modest success, sharing stages with Pink Floyd and The Who. But for Steve, the real gain wasn't fame. It was the freedom to experiment. He began writing his own music, combining phaser, fuzz, and slide guitar in ways no one else dared. When the band began to dissolve, he joined Bodast, a studio-focused project full of ambition but largely overlooked. It was during this obscure chapter that Howe quietly forged a voice all his own. No fame, no chart hits, no overseas tours. But every band became a laboratory. Every demo tape was a response to the question, what else can the guitar say that people haven't heard yet? Then in 1969, when original Yes guitarist Peter Banks left the band, Chris Squire and John Anderson took notice of Howe after a small performance where he played as if the entire theater had vanished, except for him. They invited him to audition, and after just one jam session, everything changed. In April 1970, Steve Howe officially joined Yes. From an unknown, often dismissed as a technical oddball, Steve Howe stepped into the sanctuary of progressive rock, bringing with him 6 years' worth of bold, unheard-of experiments. And under the stage lights he never sought, he let them shine. Successful career. When Steve Howe joined Yes in 1970, he wasn't simply replacing a former guitarist, he transformed Yes into an entirely new entity. Before his arrival, the band was still struggling to find its identity amid the exploding progressive rock movement. But when Howe stepped in, he brought not just virtuosic technique or stage presence, but an entirely different musical mindset. Bold yet refined, classical in tone yet quietly rebellious. The first album he played on, the Yes album, 1971, marked an immediate turning point. Tracks like Yours Is No Disgrace and Starship Trooper were no longer just songs. They became surreal journeys where the guitar didn't just accompany, it spoke, telling stories through sound. Clap, an acoustic solo recorded live, didn't just showcase fingerstyle mastery, it captured the spirit of Howe himself, organic, pure, and alive. With just one album, he made fans and critics rethink the role of guitar in prog rock. That breakthrough continued with Fragile, 1971, and Close to the Edge, 1972, two of the most defining albums in 1970s progressive rock, with Howe as a central creative force. In Roundabout, he crafted a guitar riff interwoven with Hammond organ that felt both Baroque and modern, helping the song become one of the few prog hits to break into commercial radio. But it was Close to the Edge where he reached his creative zenith. Complex time shifts, seamless blends of flamenco and Baroque, masterful use of space and silence, all came together in an 18-minute symphonic epic, every second marked by Howe's touch. Notably, much of the piece was written with John Anderson beside a river in Devonshire. No studio, no tape recorder, just intuition, memory, and spiritual harmony. Between 1973 and 1977, Yes entered a surreal phase, pushing every boundary of song structure and instrumentation. Tales from Topographic Oceans, 1973, ran 80 minutes with only 4 tracks, a challenge to every rule in the book. While many dismissed it as self-indulgent, for Steve Howe, it was a period of pure creative freedom. He explored everything from pedal steel and sitar to 12-string guitars, from razor-sharp leads to arpeggios as delicate as morning dew. His music had outgrown rock. It became a genre unto itself, merging every influence he had ever absorbed. Howe's perfectionism made Yes unique, but also caused internal friction. Conflicts over artistic direction and commercial pressure from record labels led to his departure in the early 1980s. But he didn't disappear. Instead, he joined the supergroup Asia alongside John Wetton King Crimson, Jeff Downes The Buggles, and Carl Palmer ELP. Their self-titled debut in 1982 was a massive commercial success, with hits like Heat of the Moment. Yet Howe soon felt out of place in such a market-driven environment. He left after just 2 albums, yearning for something deeper. In 1986, he formed GTR with another prog legend, Steve Hackett of Genesis. The project attempted to merge 2 distinct prog philosophies, Howe's abstract complexity and Hackett's melodic sensitivity. But GTR proved short-lived, as both realized their artistic visions were too strong to reconcile. Even so, these ventures didn't dim Howe's legacy. They only reaffirmed one thing: he didn't adapt to trends. He followed his own orbit. By the late 1980s, an unnamed reunion took shape. Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe, a lineup without legal rights to use the Yes name, but one that felt more like Yes than anything else. This reunion confirmed once again, Steve Howe wasn't just Yes's guitarist, he was part of its soul. In 1996, Howe officially returned to Yes. But times had changed. Rock was no longer the cultural centerpiece, and progressive wasn't a buzzword anymore. Yet Howe remained true. He still performed 15-minute compositions, still toured with dozens of guitars, still played solos he had written 40 years earlier. Not to please fans, but to remind them, music isn't dead, as long as someone still lives for it. After the death of Chris Squire in 2015, Yes's co-founder and its soul for nearly 5 decades, Steve Howe became the last keeper of that legacy. Since then, he has quietly taken the reins, not through declarations, but through action, continuing to tour, releasing new albums, The Quest in 2021, Mirror to the Sky in 2023, and dedicating himself fully to the music he has served all his life. Steve Howe's career didn't rise from lucky hits or media hype. It was built on persistence, discipline, and a pure love for sound. In a world that constantly shifts with trends and time, Steve Howe chose to remain still, and in doing so, he created vibrations that made the world stop and listen. Solo career. If Steve Howe's work with Yes was a battlefield of creativity, where his musical vision stretched across the vast universe of progressive rock, then his solo career was more like a meditation room, where each note was cherished like a breath. There were no pressures from bandmates, no technical gimmicks, no need to please record labels. Just him, the guitar, and silence. Steve Howe began releasing solo albums even while he was still at the height of his fame with Yes. Beginnings, 1975, was his first declaration. His music didn't belong solely to prog rock. The album blended classical, jazz, and acoustic folk, featuring orchestral arrangements and multiple instruments performed by Howe himself: guitar, bass, keyboards, mandolin. Though it didn't make a commercial splash, Beginnings showcased something deeply Howe, refined, complex, and introspective. His solo career continued in that spirit, not commercial, not designed to satisfy anyone but himself. It was a journey inward, exploring the self through sound. The Steve Howe album, 1979, expanded the palette with compositions like Surface Tension and Concerto in D, while Turbulence, 1991, is considered one of his most complete works, melding modern electronic textures with classical emotion. In every phase he experimented: ambient, fusion, minimalism, world music, yet always remained true to his signature fingerstyle and harmonies carved with sculptor-like precision. One particularly notable aspect of his solo work is the Homebrew series, a collection of raw demos recorded in his bedroom, home studio, sometimes even on cassette tapes. Homebrew 1, released in 1996, launched a series of albums that invited listeners into the backyard of creativity, where well-known pieces like Mood for a Day or Sketches in the Sun first emerged in their unpolished, intimate forms. For Howe, this was about sharing the process rather than the product, which he felt was more honest than anything edited. From the 2000s onward, Steve delved deeper into the acoustic world. He released Natural Timbre, 2001, Spectrum, 2005, Motif, 2008, and later Time, 2011, an album steeped in classical sensibilities arranged for string quartet. With each release, he stripped away the layers of electronics, leaving behind a soul rendered in fine ink brush strokes. The guitar was no longer a tool for display, but a meditative voice. One of the most emotionally profound moments in his solo career came with Nexus, 2017, a collaboration with his youngest son, Virgil Howe, a gifted keyboardist. Together, father and son crafted a modern-sounding album, blending electronic rhythms with lyrical, floating guitar textures. But tragedy struck just weeks after the album was completed. Virgil died suddenly of heart failure at age 41. For Steve, Nexus was no longer just a musical project. It became a final testament of fatherly love, captured in sound. Undeterred, in 2022, Steve released Lunar Mist, a spiritual successor to Nexus, built from unfinished recordings left by Virgil. Critics described the album as a eulogy in melody, where a father plays guitar as if speaking to a son who's no longer physically there. In that music, there is peace, quiet sorrow, and something only those who have truly grieved can express: the eternal presence of the departed, resonating in every note. Personal life. In Steve Howe's world, private life has always been a quiet sanctuary, far from the spotlight, untouched by media frenzy. Throughout more than 50 years of his career, he's never been caught in romantic scandals, never featured in tabloids, and never used his personal life to promote his public image. If there's one thing he has shared, it's simply this: family is the only thing that can make me stop playing music, even for a moment. Steve Howe married Janet, his lifelong companion since the early 1970s. While peers and colleagues went through divorces, remarriages, and public love affairs, Steve and Janet remained quietly side by side. They rarely appeared together in public, but she was always there when he left Yes during tours with Asia, and especially during the family's most painful chapters. The couple has 3 children: Dylan, Georgia, and Virgil. Dylan became a drummer and performed with his father in several jazz projects, including the Steve Howe Trio. Georgia pursued visual arts, and Virgil, the youngest, was the most musically tender soul in the Howe family. As a keyboardist, producer, and DJ, Virgil didn't follow in his father's progressive rock footsteps, but he found a strange and beautiful harmony with him in the world of arrangement, where melody transcended generational gaps. The bond between father and son was once described by the press as an unbroken line of sound. They wrote music together, performed together, laughed together, and sat silently in the studio, each understanding the other more through musical phrasing than through words. It was a love not broadcasted, but deeply radiant. Then, one morning in September 2017, Virgil Howe died suddenly at the age of 41, just weeks after he and Steve had completed their joint album Nexus. The cause was natural heart failure with no warning signs. Steve Howe, who had toured relentlessly for over 40 years, immediately canceled all scheduled performances, withdrew from the media, and stepped away from the stage for the first time in his life, not because of music, but because he simply could not go on. He made no statement, no social media post, no emotional tribute. Instead, months later, he quietly released Nexus, not as a public farewell, but as a private one. At the time, the press called him the father whose strings had snapped. But Nexus, followed by Lunar Mist, 2022, an album built from Virgil's unfinished recordings, became symbols of silent endurance. In them, Steve Howe did not cry. He played. And in every note was the shadow of a son he could never call by name again. Since that loss, Steve Howe has grown even more reclusive. He rarely gives interviews, avoids major events, and connects with fans only through his website or brief conversations backstage. When asked how he feels after everything, he simply replied, "I still play. I still find something in the music. As long as that's there, I can breathe." Steve Howe's life has no loud marriages, no family drama, no poetic declarations. But in that quietness lies something deeper, an artist who chooses to love through action, to father through music, and to survive through silence. Legacy and influence. When people speak of the greatest guitarists of the 20th century, they might name Jimi Hendrix with his fire, Eric Clapton with his blues, or Jimmy Page with his dark mystique. But with Steve Howe, his legacy doesn't lie in a single icon, a hit song, or a style easily mimicked. It lies in thought, in the way he turned the guitar into a tool for musical thinking, not just for performance. For over half a century, Steve Howe has woven a distinct musical language, where each note poses a question and every piece is a journey. Unconfined by rock, jazz, classical, or flamenco, he transcended genres to construct melodic structures that are unfamiliar, complex, yet never devoid of emotion. That's why he isn't merely a guitarist. He is a sound architect, designing worlds that listeners must explore with both their minds and hearts. Recognition came early, and deservedly so. From 1977 to 1981, Guitar Player magazine readers voted him Best Overall Guitarist 5 years in a row, making him the first active musician inducted into the Guitar Player Hall of Fame. Among professionals, he became the benchmark for boundless creativity, a man bold enough to make an acoustic solo the centerpiece of a prog album, to play pedal steel and harpsichord in the same song, to reject the easily palatable in pursuit of beauty still undefined. In 2017, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of Yes. On stage at the ceremony, Steve Howe, slender, silver-haired, eyes resolute, didn't give a long speech. He spoke only of gratitude, of patience, and of how he was still learning every day from his own music. Steve Howe's influence reaches far beyond Yes. Guitarists of later generations, Alex Lifeson, Rush, John Petrucci, Dream Theater, Steven Wilson, Porcupine Tree, and Mikkel Åkerfeldt, Opeth, have all cited him as a pioneer of non-linear guitar composition. To them, Howe is more than inspiration. He's a reminder that true longevity comes from loyalty to one's personal voice. To fans, he represents the golden era of prog rock, a time when music was written like novels, albums were heard as journeys, and every detail carried weight. They come to concerts not just to hear Roundabout or Close to the Edge, but to witness Howe himself, the man who still brings nearly 20 guitars on stage for a single performance, who still tunes them by hand, who still plays 15-minute solos like he's breathing for the very first time. Steve Howe's legacy isn't carved into any monument. It lives in every mind awakened by his music, in the thousands of young musicians learning to weave together odd time signatures because of him, in the elderly couples in the front row, holding hands, eyes closed, as he strikes the first note of "And You and I." Now in his 70s, he has nothing left to prove. Yet each time he steps on stage, each time he quietly releases a new acoustic album, he reminds us of something nearly forgotten. Music is a living legacy, and if someone tends the flame, it will never die. And Steve Howe, with all his quiet strength and relentless devotion, has kept that flame burning brightly, without needing applause, without needing praise. Current life. At 77, Steve Howe still hasn't stopped. While most of his contemporaries have retired or faded into quiet solitude, He continues to create, perform, and record as if time had never passed. To him, music isn't a job. It's the essence of life, a breath, the only way to exist fully in a chaotic world. The year 2024 marked a special milestone in his enduring journey with Yes. Under Howe's leadership, the last surviving member of the classic lineup, Yes launched the Classic Tales of Yes tour, traveling through major cities across Europe and Japan. From London's Royal Albert Hall to Tokyo Dome City Hall, Howe took the stage night after night with nearly 20 guitars, tuning each one by hand, playing every note with the precision of a debut performance. Not stopping there, in August-September 2024, Yes continued their trek across the United States with the More Time tour, co-headlining with Deep Purple, two of the few remaining titans from the golden age of progressive and hard rock. Amid soaring renditions of Roundabout and South Side of the Sky, Howe remained on stage with his signature calm. No theatrics, no shouting, just letting the music speak for itself. That same year, on September 27, 2024, Howe released a new solo album titled Guitarscape, a completely independent project, written, recorded, and produced by himself. The 14-track instrumental record blends acoustic textures, ambient soundscapes, and gentle electronics in a deeply introspective journey. His son Dylan Howe played drums on select tracks, extending the family's lifeline through sound. Critics praised the album as a meditative space built with guitars, where Howe no longer needed to display technique, only to let emotion lead. Then came 2025, when many thought he might finally slow down. Howe and Yes announced the Fragile Tour, the album series, a U.S. tour scheduled for October to November, featuring a complete live performance of the landmark Fragile 1971 album, alongside other hits. More than half a century since Roundabout first echoed through speakers, he still plays every note as if it were brand new. Off-stage, he lives quietly with his wife in the peaceful countryside of southern England, where he spends time meditating, gardening, and writing personal blog entries on his website. When not on tour, he plays with his grandchildren, records unreleased compositions, and occasionally sends quiet thanks to the fans who have followed him for over 50 years. No spectacle, no promises, but always present. No one is forcing Steve Howe to continue. He has nothing left to prove, but every time the world gets too loud, he picks up his guitar and plays a melody that makes everything quiet again. In an era where everything is fast, easy, and shallow, his presence is a quietly extraordinary thing. Steve Howe is still here, not to be a legend, but to remind us. True music never ages, as long as someone still lives for it. Steve Howe never sought the spotlight. He never chased immortality in pop culture, never built a personal brand, never made headlines with provocative statements. And perhaps because of that, he has endured longer than most, like a steady underground heartbeat of a musical era that will never repeat itself. In a world where every artist is pushed through the cycle of young, famous, outdated, forgotten, Howe stands as proof that some don't need to enter that race. He chose the longer path, the quieter one, filled with pauses. And it's precisely that path which led him to a place few artists ever reach: absolute respect from both audiences and critics alike. Steve Howe's greatest legacy isn't found in award-winning albums, prestigious honors, or standing ovations in concert halls. It lies in the feeling his music leaves behind: stillness, sincerity. A feeling that's rare in this oversaturated age of noise, that somewhere out there, a man is still quietly playing the guitar. Not for fame, not for money, but because it's what he was born to do.